Hi, I'm Michael Sidebottom, and this is The Final Trade. The buzzwords often begins to fade, so I look around for what I can trade. I have no money, but I must stay high. Nothing else matters, I cannot deny. I have tools and gadgets and electrical things. I have clothes and food and silver-plated rings. Some of it's mine, most of it's not. For a big sack of dope, I'll trade the whole lot. So I make the deal and refresh my buzz. The cloud surrounds me as it always does. But before you know it, nothing remains. I have nothing left to trade except my heart-stopping pains. So I prepare myself for the final trade. The devil will collect on the deal we've made. The buzz wears off and I lose the cloud. I trade it in for a suffocating death shroud. Now nothing in life is free, everything has a price. And this includes addiction, which is a very high price. But it's a cost that goes well beyond where we think it's going to be in the beginning. Because in the beginning, we pay out a little bit of money for a little bit of dope to have a little bit of fun. Then it's a little more money for a little more dope for a little more fun. Then a little more, and a little more, and a little more. And before you know it, this addiction takes control of our lives and it consumes us. And it creates this desperation to stay high. We'll do anything to avoid coming down. So we start spending all the money we have to prevent this from happening. We stop paying our bills, our rent, and our utilities, and buying food just to stay high. We wipe out our bank accounts and max out our credit cards just to stay high. Then we start writing bad checks and taking out fraudulent loans which we don't intend to repay just to stay high. But eventually all these financial resources run dry. And that's when the desperation takes us to the next level of addiction, trade. Now I haven't met a dope dealer yet who didn't accept some form of trade in exchange for dope. This trade can be in the form of jewelry, electronics, gift cards, bikes, tools, appliances, clothes, whatever, you name it. If it had value, we could trade it for dope. And I've even known some dealers to accept sexual favors in exchange for dope. And as addicts, we make these trades willingly because it doesn't matter if the item had personal value or monetary value. If it could keep us high, then it was gone. Because I don't know how many times I've heard or said this phrase to a dope dealer. How much will you give me for this? And so trade becomes a way of life for the addict. But eventually we run out of things to trade. And that's when the desperation takes us to the next level of addiction, theft. We start stealing from our family and friends, our neighbors and our coworkers, just to stay high. We start stealing from department stores and grocery stores and convenience stores and hardware stores, just to stay high. It doesn't matter. If the item had value and we could get our hands on it, we would take it to trade for dope. And we would justify this theft by our desperation, telling ourselves that we had to stay high, we had to make this happen. So it was okay, and we believed it. And so theft becomes a way of life for the addict, and it's a price we're willing to pay. Unfortunately, even then, the cost of addiction has yet to be paid in full, because it goes beyond just the initial transaction or trade required to get the dope in the first place. Because most addicts are too spun out of their minds to notice the fine print. We're unaware of all the hidden fees and costs or the hidden trades that have yet to be made. Because when we start spending all of our time getting high and doing nothing else, we stop going to work and we get fired, so we trade in our jobs. When we stop paying our bills and our rent and our utilities, we get evicted, so we trade in our homes. When we stop eating and drinking and sleeping, we trade in our health. When we start lying to everyone around us about what we're doing, we trade in trust in our family and our friends. When we start living the demeaning and self-serving lives of addicts, we trade in self-respect and dignity. And when we start stealing, in addition to our using and dealing, we're breaking the law, so eventually we get caught. So we trade in our freedom. But eventually all these trades run dry, and we're left with nothing left to trade. That's when the desperation takes us to the final level of addiction. That's when it takes us to the final trade. That's when we trade in our desperation for decomposition. That's when we trade in our very life. And that's a very sad prospect, knowing that ultimately this addiction takes everything from us. We give it freely. And it's a very sad, sad thing. Thankfully, however, I've said this before and I'll say it again. This side of the grave, there is always, always hope for redemption. And this redemption comes in the form of what I like to call the escape trade. And it's real simple. If you want to escape from this life of addiction, if you want to escape from the ultimate final trade that will be required of you, you can. It's real easy. Just put down the dope, give it up, and you can get back everything you lost. You can get back your jobs and your homes and your family and your friends, your health, your trust, your self-respect, your dignity, your freedom, and your life. You can get it all back by just trading in the dope. I know, because that's exactly what I did. At a point in my life when things couldn't get any darker and I was on the verge of making that final trade myself, I made a change. And instead of trading in that desperation for decomposition, I traded it in for redemption. And I got everything back. And it's amazing. And I tell you what, it's the best deal I ever made. Thank you. Check out my amazing story of recovery from addiction at michaelsidebottom.tateauthor.com or Facebook on the road. It's an amazing story with hope and inspiration, and I hope it helps to save your life as well. Thank you.